What is up everyone, Movie back again with another video, and today is going to be my 2021 Arrow video collection. Now, I done one of these about a year ago on the channel when I first started YouTube, but I thought it was time for a refresh because I've added a few more titles in here now, so why not? Now, Arrow is one of my favourite labels to buy for here in the UK. Just put so much detail into the releases, lots of special features, reversible covers, the artwork is always great. They do boutique labels and box sets, and I've got a mixture of that in here. Now, this isn't the biggest collection of Arrow titles you're ever going to see, of course, but I own about 60 titles, I'd say, which is big enough for a video, I feel. And these are in alphabetical order, I think, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Let's just get into it. So the first title that I own here is Audition. Now, I haven't watched this for quite a while. I watched it years ago and I was really taken aback by it. I've only seen it once, but this is about a rich guy who sort of makes these women audition to be his wife. Now, that's kind of weird, really, isn't it, when you think about it? But it's sort of a romance drama for the first two acts, and the third act it does go down a much more sinister road. It starts to just turn the movie on its head, and I was really quite shocked at it. Now, I do want to watch this again soon because my fiance's never seen it, and I'm not really going to tell her anything about it, and I'm just going to see her reaction, but I would like to review it on the channel when I do watch it as well. So yeah, Audition, great title to start with, one of my favourite foreign cinema horror movies, if you like, or romance drama, like I said, whatever you want to call it. Next up is, it's definitely a horror film, by the way. Next up is Battle Royale. Now, I know there's a 4K edition of this just come out, but I just haven't grabbed it. Now, this is one of my favourite first time watches of last year. I finally got round to it, and this is about a teacher who is sort of bullied by the pupils, and he comes up with this plan to just take them all to this island, and they have to kill each other one by one, and the last one to be alive is the winner. Now, that's a pretty, horrible thought for this teacher to come up with, but that's his way of getting back with them. There's some really good moments in this. It's very, very violent. There's like 30 odd deaths in this, because there's like 41 of them on the island and stuff. It's just kill, kill, kill all the time, and some of the students can't take it, revert to suicide and stuff. You can see the trauma on these students' faces because they just really are in a corner, really, and they don't know what to do. It's either kill or be killed, but this is such a good film. I highly, highly recommend it. Another foreign release there. Next up is Blood Rage. This is a really cheesy 80s movie about these twins, and one of them, a killing happens at the start of the movie, and one of them goes to a mental hospital for like 10 years, and when he gets out, the killings start again. But it's sort of, there's a little twist on it and stuff. Some alright kills in this. This is a Thanksgiving movie, I think. It's decent enough. You can have a good time with it. It all depends if you like low budget cheesy horror, but I think this is quite a fun film, actually. It's not bad. Next up is Big Trouble in Little China. Now, I know a lot of people love this movie, but I had a really bad experience with this. Me and my fiance watched it in the summer, and we were in a single bed at the time because I used to live with my mum and dad, and it was so hot. It was like peak of the summer. It was 11 o'clock at night, and this dog just kept barking all the way through. It was ruining the movie for us, and we just had a bad experience with it, but I'm going to have to give it another go. But it was such a weird film, and it just didn't fit with the experience at the time of watching it, if you get me. So I'm going to have to rewatch this. I know a lot of people love it, but for me right now, I didn't like this film too much. But I'm going to have to give it another go, I think. I mean, it can't be loved by everyone, and me just, that much for me to really dislike it that much. Blade Runner was a movie that a lot of people told me was great, and when I went back to it, it did work for me. So maybe it'll be the same with Big Trouble in Little China. Next up is The Burning. This is definitely one of my favourite slasher movies of all time. It's kind of the same as Friday the 13th, where it all takes place at a camp. But I feel like this is better than every Friday the 13th film. I love this movie. They basically play a trick on the caretaker and sort of set him on fire, but they don't really kill him. And about 5 years later, he comes back and takes revenge on the people in the camp, all the teenagers and stuff. There's some really great kills in this, especially the canoe scene, or is it a raft or something? I think it's a canoe. And just 5 people are killed in one, and like 10 seconds. It's just so gruesome, but one of the best movie kills you'll ever see. I highly recommend this if you like slashers, especially 80s slashers. Such a good movie, The Burning, really is. Next up is The Bibs, one of my favourite movies of all time. I do own this on Steelbook. There's the back if you want to look at that. And it's the inside. You get a little booklet and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. But this is one of my favourite movies of all time. I think I've seen it. If I was going to do a list of 10 movies that I've watched more than anything else, this would be in there because I've just rewatched it so many times. Every time it comes on TV and stuff, I'll just play. Yeah, just watch it from wherever it's on. I just love Tom Hanks in this. This is about a group of neighbours who think their new neighbours are murderers, and it all just works really well. It's a really funny comedy. I highly recommend this if you want a fun time. Tom Hanks in one of his more comedic roles there. Next up is one of the greatest horror films ever made, in my opinion. Probably in my top 10 of all time. Well, it is in my top 10 of all time. And that is Candyman. My only regret with this is not getting the box set, the boutique label, when it came out at the time. I did already own it on a different Blu-ray, so I held back. And I wish I would have just got it now, but this is still a nice little Hammer A edition. Love this movie. Basically, if you say his name in the mirror 5 times, he will come and kill you. You all know the story of Candyman. Really looking forward to the remake coming out later this year. It's my most anticipated film of the year. Hope they do a good job of it. What I love about this, Virginia Madsen is a great protagonist. Tony Todd as the Candyman. She's searching for him, and he has just got this hypnotic voice, really, and there's no one quite like Tony. I don't think anyone could do a good of his job as playing Candyman as Tony Todd, but we'll see in the remake. He's just brilliant in this. There's so many great gory kills, and there's just blood all over the screen at times. It's a really, really good film. I highly recommend it if you love. It's more of a clever horror. It's not just a slasher. There's more to it than that. Next up is City of the Living Dead, and I didn't like this movie too much, I'm not going to lie. This is one of them window box editions, if you remember, that Arrow used to do. I think these have gone quite up in price now. I've got another couple to show you in a minute, but these are quite high in price now, I believe. Didn't like this movie too much. I just thought it was going to be a big zombie film, and it really wasn't. It was just about this sort of priest who just stands there like that on the camera all the time. It's not a great film. I know people do like this movie, but yeah, not for me really. Next up is Climax from Gaspar Noé. Now this is a really good film. It's like something you haven't seen before. It's about a bunch of people at a party, and someone has spiked the punch with a lot of drugs, and everyone starts tripping out and going crazy, just going really weird around this party. There's a lot of one-take shots. It's not a movie you should watch if you like to take drugs, put it that way, because if you watch this while you're high, I can imagine it being a surreal experience and you panicking and stuff, because it's really, really weird. But it's such a good film. I do recommend it. I mean, the dance routine at the start, the choreographed dance routine, is great. I mean, that's a great opening to this movie. So many weird characters and stuff. It's like nothing I've seen, and that's why I like some of these foreign releases that just do things a little bit different. They go down a slightly different story path instead of formulaic story paths that Hollywood likes to do. This is something a little bit different, so I do recommend that movie. Next up is The Crazies. I'm going to upset a few people here. I didn't like this film at all. I just thought it was so boring. It was dull. It was badly made. I don't think George Romero done a good job of this movie at all. There's a lot of just weird editing. Basically, I think it's about a zombie outbreak. I can't quite remember the full zombies or whatever, but I do prefer the remake. I think the remake is so much better. I think this is one of Romero's weaker titles, in all honesty. Yeah, and it's like the government doing a big clean-up of everyone who's infected and stuff like that. I know a lot of people like that film. For me, personally, it just wasn't for me. Next up is one of these boutique labels that I was talking about, and that is Creepshow 2. I have done a full unboxing of this on the channel, but you get a booklet and the Amaray case and stuff. Really nice addition there. Now, when I bought this, I'd never actually seen a Creepshow movie, and I'd always heard Creepshow 2 is the best, but it is an anthology film, so I don't think you have to fully watch the first one anyway. But this is a really good film. The first two stories are where it's at. I didn't care too much for the hitchhiker story. The second one was the best, On the Raft. That was such a good story with like this oil, like this blob taking over the lake. and they can't get off the raft and they're stuck in the middle of the lake because this blob thing will get them. It's really, really good. I really like the first story with the Indian as well. That was really good. Yeah, just a fun movie. I love the way I forgot the guy who does the makeup for Dawn of the Dead and stuff. He's the creep. What's his name? I always forget his name, but he looks really good in this. I love the way he's in the middle of the stories and stuff. Really, really good. Some good animation in the middle as well. Next up is another cardboard window edition. I don't know what you call them. And that is Dawn of the Dead. Now, I know there's a big 4K release of this on second sight, but I was happy enough with this. This is a really good edition. This has gone up way up in price now. It's got 3 covers there and a poster, lots of special edition features. It's a 3-disc edition. I just open it up. There's one of the covers. There's one of the others. There's 2 inside as well. I can flip them over. You get a nice booklet and stuff. And there's a poster behind there. Don't know if you can quite see it, everyone, but sorry about. I won't get it out. But nice 3-disc edition, is that? Yeah. Nice 3-disc edition. So I'm happy enough with this. I love this movie. This is the best zombie movie I have ever seen. It's such a fun time, all taking place in this shopping mall. Inspired games like Dead Rising and stuff. Romero's best movie for me. Absolutely love it to death. Just watch it. Keenan's dad from Keenan and Kel goes around with a sniper rifle. What more than you want? Next up is Day of the Dead, another window box edition. There's the booklet in there. Oh, it's a nice booklet actually. And there's one of the back covers, one of the front covers. And inside, I think this is only 1 disc actually, not as big as the other ones, but you get a booklet and a poster and stuff. Really nice edition. Now, Day of the Dead is such a good follow-up to Dawn of the Dead, I feel. I love, is it Captain Rhodes is his name? I think his name's Joseph Pilato. He is just a great villain in this. He's so good. He is worse than the zombies. And it all takes place in an underground bunker, this one. So it changes up the location a little bit. I highly recommend Dawn of the Dead. It's brilliant. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and... Did I say Dawn of the Dead for that? I recommend Day of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. You can't really go wrong with them if you fancy a zombie film, can you? Next up is The Range. I watched this not long ago, actually. This is the guy from Home Alone, the old guy who shovels the snow. And his mum dies and he doesn't know what to do with himself because his mum is his sort of best friend. And sort of goes on a little bit, a mini killing spree, if you like. It's okay. It's a horror comedy. I mean, I didn't hate it or anything. I thought I was going to really dislike this film, but it was kind of funny in places and a little bit gory, if you like, but not too gory, just a little bit sickly at times. He's feeding his mum this horrible soup at the start when she's like on a deathbed and it's just dripping all over her, and I was like, oh, hard to watch. Next up is Don't Torture a Duckling. This is an Italian film by Lucio Fulci. This all takes place with these kids going missing in a Italian village, a small village, and it's just, I can't quite remember if it's this other kid trying to uncover it or this with this cop, with this detective. I can't quite remember. It's an okay film, nothing quite special. Weird title for a movie. It's okay if you like a little mystery drama. It's more of a thriller than a horror, I feel personally. But it's okay. It's okay. Nothing special. Next up is one of my newest Arrow pickups, and that is Edge of the Axe. I just felt like watching a cheesy 80s horror about a month ago, and I thought, you know what, everyone says Edge of the Axe is good, so I watched it on Shudder, and as soon as I watched it, I picked it up, because I had such a fun time with this. The killings don't look great or anything, but I can look past that. I love cheesy 80s horror. It's my type of thing, especially when it's a slasher film, and this will do for me. There's a bit of a mystery in there as well as to who the killer is and stuff. I had a fun time with this. Just something you can sit back, relax to, and not think too much about. And there's a scene in this where these two characters sending an email to another computer. It's in the same room and everything. They're just blown away by how this computer can do this, and it's just funny to see because these days it's just done on phones, isn't it, really? But it was just funny to see. Next up is Flowers in the Attic. Now, this is about a bunch of kids who sort of just never let out the house, from my memory, serves me right. And and they believe the outside world's bad and stuff like that. Now, I think it's the mum or the stepmom locking them in there. I can't quite remember too much, but what I do remember is there's a weird little relationship going on with the brother and sister. It doesn't really come to anything, but when you're watching it, it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, I feel. But it's a good film. I remember liking it. I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5 or something. It's decent enough. Next up is the Gruesome Twosome. Now, this woman here, her favourite catchphrase is when she's talking to her cat and she just says, "Right, Napoleon." I'm not joking. She says that like 15 times throughout this film. This is about her and her son sort of killing these women to take their scalps and sell it in a wig shop. Yeah, kind of stupid really, but it's badly made. It's very low budget. But I don't think it was terrible. It wasn't great though. It's only a 60-minute movie or something. You do get another film on this, but you haven't watched. 1967's A Taste of Blood. Now, I haven't watched that, but that is on there, weirdly. So, yeah, it's sort of 2 movies on there. Next up is a box set, and that is the Hellraiser Trilogy. Now, I know there's like 10 of these films or something now, but I know I've only released these ones. You get Hellraiser 1, which, for me, is the best one by a mile. I think it's a really good story. And what's her name? Angela? Julia, she's a sinister character here, and her and Frank getting up to... Because what it is, Frank has been bound to hell because he messed around with this puzzle box at the start, and he needs to he gets out of it, but he needs to feed on human flesh in order to become human again. So he gets this ex-lover of his, Julia, to do his bring these guys back to the house for him, and he just kills them. But then Pinhead doesn't really take too kindly to that and comes with the Cenobites and stuff. It's a really, really clever film from Clive Barker. I really like Hellraiser. Straight after it, that weekend, we did watch Hellraiser 2. Now, I remember thinking this was one of the best sequels back then. But, yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie. I think they just tried to overcomplicate it. And this guy here is probably the best character in it. I mean, he just takes out the Cenobites like they're nothing. But I think Pinhead is a pretty weak horror character anyway. He looks good, but he's not really strong or anything like that. But it's an okay sequel. And next up, Hellraiser 3 or Hell on Earth. A lot of people hate this one, but I thought I would put it on the same level as Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Decent enough. I don't think it's worse than 2. Might even be better in some ways, to be honest. There's a good little Cenobite sequence at the end with this guy called CD who just throws CDs at people into the face and stuff. But a decent little trilogy. I'm glad to have that box set, especially for the first one. It's a nice little box set from Arrow there. Next up is Hell Comes to Frogtown. Now, this is that wrestler guy who not long ago died, sadly, Roddy Piper. And women are just irresistible to him in this movie, but an apocalypse has happened and he's got to go to this town called Frogtown. I can't quite remember why, actually. These women make him go, or they're going to kill him or something, to retrieve something. I can't quite remember the full story, but the frogs look weird. They're just like humans walking around with this rubber frog skin on. It's okay. It's B-movie, cheese, whatever the hell you want. Some people are going to get a kick out of it, some people are going to hate it. Next up is The Hills Have Eyes. Now, this is an okay film, but like the Crazies, I do prefer the remake, I'm not going to lie. It's okay. It's just about this family who break down in the middle of the outback, and these people living in the hills come and try and kill them, these cannibals and stuff, and rob the baby and stuff like that. And they have to go into the hills looking for the baby and stuff. I think that's what it was anyway. But I do prefer the remake. I think the remake's a lot better. This has got some problems and some bad editing and stuff. It didn't actually look great either. I mean, there was like... It looked like the film had been damaged and stuff, but... Yeah, I own it anyway. Next up is House. Now, this is a horror comedy out of Planet 9 or something. It's just absolutely crazy. This guy moves into a house and there's all historic things that have happened there. And it's more of a horror... I can't quite explain it, but this guy just pops into his house whenever he feels like, and he becomes best friends with him. But they have to fight these demons and stuff that are living in the house, and there's just some weird creatures in this, and like the movie I spoke about before, with with the rubber, the Hell Comes to Frogtown. You can tell that they're fully rubber suits and stuff, but it's an okay film. You can have fun with it, but it's not great. Now this one is an absolute masterpiece, and that is House 2. When I say that, I mean it's so bad it's good. I absolutely adore this movie. It's brilliant because how they got away with making this is just hilarious. It's more of an adventure film, this. I wouldn't say it's a horror, but it's more of an adventure comedy. Some of the things that happen in this movie you wouldn't believe. They go to a dinosaur planet and bring back this pterodactyl, and this pterodactyl's sitting at the dinner table with like a bib on so he doesn't spill any food on him. There's this dog that's half caterpillar. The granddad here is just been dead for like 150 years, and they get him out the grave, and he's just bouncing around this house when they have a party, dancing with these young girls and stuff. It's absolutely crazy, honestly. These two guys are the main stars of the film, and their wives just leave them at the start, and they don't even care. They just don't care. They just decide to have fun in the house while they go off with this guy. It's just crazy. But I had such a fun time with this movie. I would watch it time and time again. It's better than the first. It's the best house movie. Next up is House 3, probably the worst house movie in comparison to the second. This was meant to be called a horror show. It wasn't even meant to be called House 3. This is about a guy who kills a load of people and gets executed, and the sheriff who catches him is haunted by him after he's been executed, and comes back and stuff. Kind of like the movie Shocker. It's the same damn thing, but Shocker is better. But it's not bad. It's watchable. Some gory scenes in it, but it's the worst house movie, I feel. It feels so much different to all the others. Next up is House 4, The Repossession. The guy from the first film is instantly killed at the start, and his wife has to go and take over the house where he lived or owned with her daughter. And like House 2, this has got a crazy sequence in it. Like some crazy sequences, but one of them is a pizza that talks. I like this better than the third one. It's not as good as the first two, but it's watchable. It's a fun movie. I recommend the house movies just if you like easy fun to watch. I wish I owned them in a box set, but it's not the end of the world. Next up is House by the Cemetery. This is a Lucio Fulci movie. I didn't like this film too much. I mean, nothing really happens until the last 10 minutes, and when it does happen, it's ridiculous. The monster that you see is just so grim and terrible looking. And the mum, all she says, she just shouts at him, son, all the way through this movie, and all she says is, Bob! Bob! In the same monotone voice every single time. And it just grates on you. I wasn't a fan of this movie, guys. I just wasn't. I'm sorry if there are fans of that film, but it just wasn't for me. Next up is an Arrow Academy release. One of the most underrated movies ever, I feel. And this is Mads Mikkelsen, who has been wrongly accused of abusing this young boy. And it just shows how far a lie can go to destroying someone's life. Some really upsetting scenes involving the dog and stuff in this. But I do recommend it. It's like the foreign movies. I think this is actually foreign. It goes down a different story path and does things differently. I think this is a really, really good film. Quite underrated. And I think it's hard to get hold of these days. But a brilliant performance by Mads Mikkelsen. Highly recommend it. A strong, strong movie. Next up is The Incredible Melting Man. B-movie trash, really. It wasn't great. Just poorly made. Very, very low budget. Which I don't mind sometimes, but it's got to be done at least half good. This was just one of them movies that I just didn't care for. And I just watched it from start to end because I don't like turning movies off. It's not terrible, it's watchable, but it's not very good. Basically, it's just about this guy who, I can't quite remember now, it's more of a sci-fi film, this, who just becomes exposed to this radiation or something, and he's just melting, but trying to kill people at the same time. Brilliant cover though, I love that cover, that's what drew me to it. Next up is Incident in a Ghostland, one of the most clever horror films I've seen from the past few years. It's about a family who are going to a new town, I believe, or a new house, and down the motorway this ice cream truck is just staying really close to the car, and you don't quite know who's in it, but then you do find out. But there's much more to it than that. Near the end is a really, really good twist, and it's a very clever film. I really, really think this is worth a watch. Quite creepy at times, quite scary, especially in the first half an hour. Really, really good film. Highly recommend that one. Next up is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, I know a lot of people love this movie, but for me, I found it quite boring. I just thought not really much happened. I don't know. I like Donald Sutherland as an actor, but a lot of the movies I've seen him in are just pretty boring. To be honest, I know it's not his fault, it's the director, but yeah, I just didn't do nothing for me. Just a very boring movie, in my opinion. Maybe I need a rewatch. Jeff Goldblum is in this, an early young Jeff Goldblum, but I'm sorry guys, I can't like every movie. Next up is I See You. Now, I think this has got a different, oh no, same cover. This is a really, really clever movie. Now, this is about a family with weird stuff happening in the house and they don't quite know why. And we see it as a viewer more than them. What's going on? It's like there's a ghost in there or something. And then halfway through the film, things start to make sense. Now, I'm not going to ruin that for you, but I do recommend you watch this. Bit of a weird performance from Helen Hunt, but it's a really, really good film. It's very, very clever, very unique, does something differently. Highly recommend this. Really, really good film. Next up is one of the worst films I've ever seen in my top 5 worst movies of all time, and that is Island of Death. I will review this movie on the channel one day because everyone knows I hate it, but I just think it is so bad. The 2 main characters for the start are just so unlikable. Can't stand the pair of them, and the death scenes are really badly put together. It's some of the worst filmmaking I've ever seen. A guy is dropped from a helicopter at one point, and you can just tell it's a paper mache mannequin. It's so bad. Some of the characters in this movie are so dumb that they don't get onto what's going on around them. It's got a terrible script. I don't know why I own it, but I don't like to get rid of movies, especially when it's a nice Arrow edition. But one day I will review this on the channel and give my full thoughts on it, because I could go on a big rant about this. It's just absolutely terrible. 0.5 star out of 5. It's crap. Trust me. My fiance said it was the worst film she's ever seen, and I tend to agree with her. It's in my top 5. It's absolutely awful. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Next up is King of New York. I watched this not long ago, actually, because I'd heard a lot of praise about it, and I just couldn't see the big deal with it. And then someone on Twitter said the same thing, and I was like, I know, what was the big deal about this film? And I was like, I don't know why everyone likes it that much. Christopher Walken's okay in this. He does a few little mad dances and stuff. But apart from that, I just didn't get it. I just didn't work for me. It was okay. It's watchable. But as hard as gangster films go and stuff like that, this isn't even in my top 30 or whatever. I mean, there's just so many better gangster movies that you can watch than this. Wasn't for me, I'm afraid. Wasn't for me. Don't go. Now, this one is for me. So, bit of positivity here. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Wow, what a film this is. I loved this movie. I just had such a good time. I loved the way the clowns looked and stuff. The concept of it, where they're putting these people into candy floss, is just absolutely mind-boggling, but it's so fun to see. This is the definition of 80s popcorn cheese. I think I just love movies with killer clowns in. I mean, I've always loved the movie It and stuff, and even the B-movie killer clown films like Camp Blood and that. I just like to watch them because there's something about killer clowns, but these are actually aliens disguised as clowns, which makes it weird, but it's really, really fun. If you want a fun time, you don't have to think about it too much, watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's such a good time. Next up is a boutique label again, and that is The Last House on the Left. Now, I've only seen this movie once, years ago, but when the boutique label came out, I just grabbed it at the time. But this has got a nice Amaray case in there, of course, a poster, really thick booklet, stuff like that. I think this is 2-disc, 3-disc edition there, so yeah, glad to own it. There's one of them slip cards and stuff. There's some postcards in there. Yeah. When I watched this movie, I was just a bit, I don't know. I didn't see the big appeal about it, but I would like to give it a rewatch, especially now I've got this nice boutique edition there. There's a J card on the back as well. I would like to give this another watch. It was pretty grim at the time. I didn't like the characters and stuff, but you're not meant to like them, of course. Just really, really unfair on two of these girls in this film, these young girls. But I might give it another watch one day. I might review it on the channel and stuff, because I like to do horror revisited episodes, so yeah. Next up is Maniac Cop. Now, this is such a fun slasher movie from the 80s again. This cop is going around killing women, and it's down to these characters to uncover what is going on. Bruce Campbell's in this. I think he's the one he's got to find out who's doing what, and it's just one of them films that you don't have to think too much about. I mean, Maniac Cop, it says it in the name, doesn't it? You know, you're just not going to get the best film ever, but you're going to get a fun time, and that's what it is. So I recommend this one. It's decent enough. Next up is one of my favourite adult titles, and that is Lords of Chaos. This is a 2018 film starring Rory Culkin, and this is a true story, but I do believe a lot of things were twisted in this. They're this band who invent black metal in Norway, and Rory Culkin needs a new band member, and this guy who comes along is just really crazy, and things start to happen that go down the extreme road, really. But I really like Rory Culkin in this. Thought he was great. Not an actor I've really paid too much attention to since Scream 4. He was a very forgettable character in that. But this one, he was brilliant, and I would like to see more of him nowadays. I really do recommend this film. It's very, very violent. It's got some upsetting scenes, but it's a great film. It's fantastic. So, one of my biggest surprises that I watched last year for the first time. Next up is Madman. Now, this is watchable, but it's not very well made, and the killer in this is not really interesting at all. This is more of a camp type movie again, like The Burning and stuff, and Friday the 13th. I can't remember if it's on a farm or a camp, whatever. Very, very forgettable film, but I'm glad to own it. I mean, I haven't heard too many people say they love this film, in all honesty, so. Next up is The Mutilator. Kind of like Madman, not very well made, but I did enjoy this one a lot more. The characters and the acting is terrible, but it's a fun time. I mean, the killer at one point takes off his clothes to kill a woman in a swimming pool and then gets dressed again. It's so stupid. But it all takes place on this beach house and stuff. But like I said, the characters aren't really that likeable and stuff. But it's a fun time. If you like B-movie, horror cheese, like most of these movies, I'd give it a go. Next up is Microwave Massacre. Now, this is like something I've never seen before, really. This guy is sick of his wife's cooking, and he accidentally kills her one night and then starts to just eat her. So he gets the taste for it and then starts taking pieces of it to work, and all his workmates are enjoying eating it as well. But they don't know it's her. They just think it's this weird butcher's that he's going to. What you'd expect from a movie called Microwave Massacre. It's a horror comedy, but it's a fun time. I enjoyed this. It's really strange though. Next up is Nightmare City. This isn't a film I particularly like too much. It's just zombies running around with machine guns, but they're not really zombies. They're like humans with just like bits of cereal put on the face and stuck on and painted red. That's how bad the costume design is. What I will say is there's about 50 kills in this movie. I mean, if you just want to see lots of people being torn apart and shot and stuff like that, this is for you. But for me, it was just trash. Wasn't a big fan of it, I'm not going to lie to you. Next up is Oldboy, one of the best foreign movies out there. I haven't seen it I've only seen it the once, like audition, but I do think this is a very, very strong movie. Very well put together, very unique about this guy who's been locked up for 15 years by this other guy, doesn't know why, and he's got to come out and uncover why this has happened to him with this help of this young girl. Really, really good film. Highly recommend it. I know there's a 4K of this out now. There's a slipcover, but it's the same underneath. I know there's a 4K of that out now, but it's just on Blu-ray. Next up is The People Under the Stairs, one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I have reviewed this fully on the channel a long time ago when I first started. This is about these young, just like poor family who are getting ripped off by the landlord. So they go to the landlord's house and try and rob him back. But this landlord is not what he seems. I mean, they already know, I've heard some stories about him and stuff, but they're just crazy. This family are crazy, and they come back while they're in the home and stuff really does start happening. There's people living in the walls, they're cannibals. The main guy dresses up in this gimp suit and goes hunting around the house for them. Bit of a horror comedy, but there's some hard-hitting moments in this, especially when the young girl gets thrown into a scalding hot bathtub. I felt that. Every time that happens, I feel it. So, yeah, highly recommend this. Probably Wes Craven's one of his better movies, I feel. I mean, I know he's made Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street, but apart from them, that is up there with the best. Next up is Pieces. I can't quite remember too much about this. I think it all takes place in a school. This killer's going around killing the students and stuff. I think I remember a kill at the start with a chainsaw in this garden patch of the school, I think. And it's just up to this young boy and this older woman, she might be his teacher, to uncover the mystery. It's okay, it's nothing special, but it's an okay time. Some okay kills in it. Next up is Psycho 2, one of the greatest sequels to a horror movie I have ever seen. Such an underrated gem, because obviously Psycho 1 is better. Psycho 1 is a masterpiece, but Psycho 2 is really, really good. I mean, this is about Norman Bates. He comes out 22 years later, and killings start to occur again. He doesn't know if it's him, he doesn't know if it's someone messing with him, he doesn't know if it's all in his mind. It's such a good mystery movie, and I love films where you have to guess what is happening. And this is one of the best mystery movies out there. Also being a horror thriller type film. Highly recommend this. Especially if you like Psycho. I think this is a good follow-up. And I don't reckon too many people have seen this because they just watched the first one. But this is such a good film. Honestly, it's brilliant. Next up is another box set. And that is Phantasm. Very, very weird series. Recently watched this not long ago. We got Phantasm 1, which is probably the best. Along with 2 and... can't really decide. 1, 2 and 3 were virtually much the same for me, but this had a little bit something more. Not the easiest movie to understand by any means, but this tall guy is going around the town, sort of taking coffins to himself at the cemetery and stuff. Some great music in this. The score is brilliant. Next up we have Phantasm 2, an equally as good movie. Like I said, the first one might be slightly better. But this is a good little follow-up, I feel. The Ice Cream Man, who is the star of this, is just the star of all the films. Phantasm 3 starts to go really, really weird, but I did enjoy this. There's a kid who does these Home Alone-style traps in this one, but in very violent ways, and he was a cool-ass kid. Next up, Phantasm 4 Oblivion. This is the worst one in the set because it just uses a lot of deleted scenes from the first movie and just throws them in and makes a film out of it. Only about half this film is Phantasm 4, the rest were deleted scenes. You can just tell. You can tell. It's terrible and it's very, very confusing. The whole series is confusing though. And Phantasm 5 Ravager, I did like it better than 4, but probably the second weakest. Cinematography in this is so weird. It's not like I've seen any cinematography like this before. It's just weirdly directed, but better than 4. But at this point I was just like, what the hell is going on? I was so confused, and I'm not the only one who thinks they're confusing movies, so I'm not ashamed to say it. That is the Phantasm box set. Nice little box set there, lots of special features. Glad to own it. Quite a big horror franchise. Next up is Wreck, one of my newest additions. This is a found footage film about this firefighter team and this camera crew, and they're just getting filmed about their daily routine. They get a call to an apartment, and when they get there, there's been like an outbreak, a virus outbreak, zombies obviously, but it's so scary, so realistic. This is one of the best found footage movies I've ever seen. It's only 70 minutes long as well. I think the cover's the same, yeah. Glad to own this. Think it's a really, really good found footage film. And like I said, so realistic. Just scary. It's scary at times. I think found footage movies are some of the scariest, to be honest, when done right, like Wreckers. I haven't seen the sequels though. I've heard 2's good. Next up is the Ring Collection. I have mixed thoughts on this now. Let's just get into it. The Ring is the best. It's a really good concept. Could have been executed a little bit better, I feel, but the fact that this videotape, if you watched it and you're going to die within 7 days and you get a phone call straight after, is quite scary. And it happens to this woman's son, and she's got to go and save him, or find a way of saving him. Decent film. I don't love it as much as some people. The Ring 2, pretty awful. I hated this movie. Thought it tried to be too ambitious, too clever for its own good, and I got confused at times. I just didn't really like this film at all. Yeah. And next up is The Ring Zero, where it goes back to this, the woman in the well, I forgot her name, really sorry, Sadako, I believe. It goes back to what happened to her before she becomes this woman on the videotape. This was a little bit better than 2, not as good as 1, but it picks the series back up. But I'm going to be honest, it's not a trilogy I absolutely love or anything. It's okay. Glad to own the box set though. It's a nice little box set there with all the white colours and stuff. So yeah, that is the Ring box set. Not long left now, guys. Next up is Robocop, and as you can see, I'm a big fan of this. My favourite film of all time. I've seen it so many times. I'm actually itching to watch it again soon because it's been a while, but I'm thinking I'm going to watch it again. I've seen this over 100 times easily. It's one of the first movies I watched and became obsessed with as a kid. Just watched it over and over and over, and I always had the edited version for TV. It wasn't until a few years later my friend Terry lent me the video, and I was blown away by this uncut version. I mean, it was the first time I'd seen a meal melting in the acid and stuff. This is a really nice addition. You've got a big thick booklet there. That is one of the thickest booklets I've ever done. You get a poster. I'm really thinking about putting that up actually. And Robocop. Nice two disc edition, yeah. Lots of stickers in there and stuff. You do get reversible artwork, but because it's the first time I've seen this artwork, because Arrow came up with it, I just leave it on that one. I really can't get this in. This always happens on videos. You can't get it back in the box. There we go. So yeah, Robocop, just absolutely love it to death. The villains in this movie are fantastic. Clarence and his gang, I just love them. Everything about this film is just great. I mean, there's only one scene I really don't like where Ed 209 and Robocop are fighting in the building down the stairs. It just drags on for a little bit, but apart from that, I have got no complaints. It's a brilliant film. Very violent as well. Very violent movie. You'd think some people probably mistaken that for like a kid's movie or something. Next up is Rollerball. I do believe this is the only movie in this whole collection that I haven't seen. I'm hoping to get round to it soon. Heard it's a bit weird though. I've heard a lot of people don't like this. So yeah. I haven't seen that one, I'm afraid, guys. Can't really talk too much about that one. Next up is Slugs. This is about a big load of slugs infesting this town and going inside people's stomach. There's an alien type sequence with this guy where it's in his stomach at a restaurant. You know, kind of like that chest burst scene, which is funny to see. It's okay. It's very low budget and stuff like most of these Arrow titles, but there's a bit at the sewers at the end with all these slugs. You just see how much all of them have overtaken the town and stuff like that. It's watchable. It's not great. Next up is The Slayer, one of my worst Arrow titles, to be honest. I just didn't see the point of this film. The ending did not make sense. It was bad. It's a bad movie. It really is. I can't even remember quite too much about it, to be honest, because it was just so forgettable. The ending just didn't make sense to me. I just didn't get it. And it's kind of like The House by the Cemetery, where you don't really see this Slayer creature till the end. And it just wasn't worth it. It's just... yeah. I hate saying I don't like some of these titles, but that's the way it is, isn't it? Next up is 16 Candles. I think this is a John Hughes film, I think. Bit weird. It's weird because this girl, all her family forget that it's her birthday. I mean, would you really forget your daughter's birthday like that? All of them, even her brother and stuff, forget it. But I can't quite remember what happens after that. It's been a while since I've seen it. I think this guy takes interest in her and stuff like that, but it's the girl from the Breakfast Club with the red hair. I forgot her name. I'm really sorry. Molly Ringwald. And the other guy from Weird Science is in it. Michael Hall, I believe, who's in Weird Science, and The Breakfast Club with Molly Ringwald. But I can't remember quite too much about what this movie's about now that I've brought it up. I have watched it, it was a couple of years ago, but it's been a while, so I just remember her family not really giving her a shit that it was a birthday. Next up is Tenebree. This is about a famous horror writer whose kills in his book start happening in real life, and it's up to him and this other woman to uncover this mystery. Some good kills in this. I actually like this Dario Argento? Yeah, Dario Argento movie better than Suspiria. I'm not gonna lie, I prefer this. But Suspiria was very, very overrated for me. It's not great or nothing. It's a 7 out of 10 film. Some good kills and stuff like that. Like Psycho 2, a bit of a mystery movie where you got to guess what's happening and stuff, which I really like doing as an audience member or a viewer. Next up is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Arrow, please release the first one in a nice edition like this. That'd be great. Thank you very much. The first one is the greatest horror film of all time, in my opinion. This just goes really strange directions. If you can get through the first 10 minutes, then you're a saint, because this guy is just screaming in a car and laughing all the time and shooting this gun. Oh, it's one of the worst scenes in movie history. It really is. But after that, it goes okay, but the makeup design and costume design isn't as good as the first one. It's way over the top. It's okay. It's about this girl who works at a radio station, and Leatherface terrorizes her, basically, Leatherface and his family. But it's a horror comedy compared to the first one. A lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. I'm more leaning towards hate, really. I mean, it's watchable. And then you get a big, thick booklet in there. Sorry, you can't really see it, but I'm not really showing too much off today. I'm just showing me a collection off. And then you get discs 2 and 3. And disc 1. With a number. I know this is, you can get this easily now on Amaray, but I'm glad to own it in that box set. I really wish Arrow would do the first one. That'd be great. Thank you, Arrow. Maybe on 4K or something. But that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Next up is Weird Science. Now, I know a lot of people love this film. I thought it was okay. I wasn't blown away or anything. Maybe I just got to it a little bit late, and maybe if I watched it earlier in my life, I would have appreciated it more. But these two guys make this girl out of their computers, their dream girl, played by Kelly LeBrock. And it's a funny film. There's some funny moments, but she's like sort of obsessed with them, and they're obsessed with her, and all the bullies who bully them become a little bit jealous and stuff. But I do think this movie could benefit from a remake. With all the modern technology we have now, I'm not saying that could actually be done, but I do think it will benefit from a remake, because there were some things that were hit and miss for me in this film, but it was a fun enough time. And last up, we do have Zombie Flesh Eaters. Watched this not long ago, actually, because I've done a horror collaboration with my friend Bryn from Horror Hands, and I really liked it. I mean, it's a really good zombie movie from the 80s that is just got that vibe. You know, that it might be the 70s, actually. I can't quite remember now. Might be late 70s or early 80s. I can't quite remember. It's got that zombie vibe, that retro zombie vibe. So when you hear of zombies in cartoons and stuff, I do think it takes a lot of inspiration from films like this. And the zombies you see in some of the movies today, it's got a different tone, if you like, and the typical zombie movie tone from the early 80s. And it all takes place on an island and stuff. There's music played throughout the movie in most scenes, or 80% of it, and it just works. Zombies look great, some great kill scenes. I really enjoyed it. So that is Zombie Flesh Eaters. That is it, guys. That is my Arrow video collection for 2021. Hopefully I'll get a few more titles for next year's one. Next up, I'm going to do my 4K collection, and then I'll probably do my entire Blu-ray collection, every single Blu-ray behind me, so look out for that. If you want to see any more collection videos, they will be down below. What did you think of some of these titles? Is there any Arrow titles you think I should add? Let me know down below, and I'll try and get back to every single one of you, I promise. Take it all easy, guys. I'll see you all next video.